Hi there. So is the Dundee City property market a buyer's or seller's market? QBD.
So we are live.
An interesting one, isn't it, Richard? This one is the Dundee City property market a buyer's or seller's market. What do we think, Richard?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just shows that we are live. There's a wee bit of a glitch with the video, but yeah, I mean, Dundee. I mean, are you a Dundee homeowner, or you're maybe considering a move to the next in the next 6 to 12 months? Perhaps you're a buy-to-let landlord and weighing up whether you maybe want to expand or possibly even streamline your portfolio.
Yeah.
Then this is the show to obviously listen to, and we're going to talk about obviously whether it is a buyer's or a seller's market, depending on which side of the fence you're on, or maybe you're a first-time buyer. You're wondering if now is the right time to make that, in the right moment to kind of make that move and take that plunge into the property market. There's a lot of different buyer criteria there that we could explore today. So whatever your position, I think knowing whether the Dundee market is currently favouring the buyers or the sellers will really help you make a more informed decision depending on what your circumstances are.
Absolutely. I think for those that generally follow the Dundee show and watch our market updates, we kind of give you a weekly roundup of what's been happening in the market area anyway. Yeah. But again, your circumstances might have changed this week and this is new news for you. So we'll cover some of this, won't we, Richard? So you'll know the best way to measure whether you're a buyer's balanced or a seller's market is to analyse the proportion of properties marketed as sold subject to closing missives or under offer is the easiest way to say that, compared to the total number of properties that are actually on the market. So what we mean by that is everything that's on the market for sale, or is everything on the market under offer, or is it a mix of both? So it'll be an interesting one to cover. For instance, if there's 300 Dundee properties, say, that are on the market at the moment, and 100 of those properties are under offer or sold, that's still giving you 200 properties available. So 100 as a percentage of 300, it's like literally a third of the market is under offer and 2/3 of it is available. Yeah. So it's an interesting one to cover. And I think the percentage figures kind of act as a barometer of where you should be. I think if you're a first-time buyer, it's a great position to be in because you've got great choice. I think if you're a seller, maybe you need to be a bit more creative with your agent in regards to what's going to happen with that. So what we're going to look at is some of the analysis that we've done in regards to whether people are extreme buyers and what percentage of the markets fall into those pots. So Richard, do you want to kind of chat a little bit about where people may sit if they're watching this?
Yeah. Let's try and clear up like the percentage and how it correlates into whether you're an extreme buyer's market or an extreme seller's market. Like you say there, if you've got the 300 on the market and 100 of them are sold, so the 100% of the 300 is a third, basically 33.3% or whatever. So in a percentage bracket, so extreme buyer's market is from 0% to 20%. So that's an extreme buyer's market. Just a normal buyer's market is from and the other side of that is 21%, 29%. And then we come to that kind of equilibrium where we're at a balanced market, and that's anywhere between 30% and 40%.
Which is where we are.
Yeah. And things have really leveled out, and that's we're generally in a balanced market. But then you start to creep into the seller's market where it creeps up to the 41 to 49%. And then you've got a hot seller's market, which is 50 to 59%. And then you hit into that extreme seller's market, which is 60% and plus, which I think we'll cover in this, where we were just obviously post-pandemic and things as well. That's where we're in.
And I think actually post-pandemic, we've seen all of these, haven't we?
We've been right through the whole roller coaster,
We've kind of roller coastered from extreme into sellers, into balanced, then to extreme when Liz Truss did her little magic moment.
Yeah, the Liz Truss budget, yeah.
Yeah, so we're now kind of back to, I think what we see is the balanced market. So how does Dundee compare? So let's have a look at that. So looking at historical data from the websites and all the advisory groups that we look at, the metrics that we track over the years, we've definitely observed some key trends. And it's interesting when we go through these, and it'll be good for you to see where you potentially sit with that. For this exercise, we've been looking at Dundee properties really from city. So we're looking DD1 to DD5. So if you're sitting in that pot, this is basically what we've based that analysis on. So in the years before the pandemic, so 2018, 19 and 2020, Dundee city market hovered between a 45% and 48% market. So if you're looking at that 45 and 48%, that was falling into that seller's market pot. So that's where you would have potentially been in at that point in those years. Demand rebounded post-pandemic, sharply in of 2020. I think we all experienced that. And it continued into 2021 actually, and into 2022. But in February,
it did have a knock-on effect, yeah.
It did. It kind of rollerballed for about, I would say, 2 years, really.
Yeah.
It kind of, we weren't really sure what we were getting from one day to the next. It was pretty extreme. And I think the percentages had risen to 72% in February of 2021. So that was when everyone just suddenly was jumping on it. Right, now we can go, let's go. So when you look at 72%, yeah, that was when it was really busy, Richard, wasn't it? And we were really in that extreme sellers market, which was great for sellers because that's when we were seeing offers over prices that had never really been experienced before.
Ones that we'll not see for a long time, I don't think. But
no, I would hope not, because actually that's just not sustainable for people, is it?
No.
But that was an interesting one. But then in February 22, just that year later, it was still pretty steady. It was at 71%, so only changed by 1%. So we were still in that extreme moment. And it certainly felt like that for me, that we had this 2-year bubble where everything was just constant, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, that 2-year period, it just kept on rolling and snowballing throughout that time. And then eventually, as I say, like we've started to level out a bit more, and things have started to become a wee bit more. Like you said as well, sellers are starting to be a wee bit more realistic about what their expectations are and things, or they're going to have to be, because the market obviously is dictating that as well. So
yeah, I think as well though, a seller today is still benefiting from those numbers because it's impacted their home report and the values of the average properties in those locations. So there's definitely still a win-win-win for the sellers of just now. But as we mentioned earlier, when we look at the fallout from the Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng budget in late 22, by the time we got to February 23, because we're kind of basing this on the February models, it settled down to 53%. So we jumped then from extreme into kind of, it was still relatively a hot sellers market. But then it started
between seller and hot seller, yeah.
It did. And then it softened a little bit as well. And then we were kind of sitting in the 42% point. So it kind of creeped into just within that sellers market, almost into the balanced. But now in February 25, we see figures sitting at 56%, on average 33 across Scotland, but 56% within the Dundee market.
So then that clearly shows that in Dundee we're still very much in a hot sellers market at the moment, as of February 2025. We've got a graphic here. Let's maybe try and talk.
Because there's a lot of numbers to give people, isn't it? Sometimes it's easier to see it in a graph.
And it's good on the shows. You know, we could sit and talk about numbers all day, and we know because we've got them in front of us and things. But I think it's quite, especially if I was listening. Do you know, a lot of people are quite visual learners and things. So hopefully you guys can see that clear enough on the screen here. And this is the Dundee City a buyer's or seller market graph, which kind of depicts what we've just covered here and the years past from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, and then right up to February where we are. The first column here, do you know these yellow bars start at 2018 up to 2025, and you can see in 2018 there, you see is obviously post 2018, 2019, and 2020 up to the March point, obviously where lockdown happened. These are the pandemic figures, and it's like your 46%, 45%, and then 48%. And then you see that sharp jump, which is obviously post-pandemic, 2021, 2022, and that's the 71 and the 72 and the 71% that you spoke about there, Perrie. Which was like a real extreme buyer's market. And as you see, obviously, especially, I mean, it's evident to us and the property market, because obviously we were experiencing it in real time. And if you were selling or buying at the time, you'll also be aware of how the market was at the time. But it was a very busy market. And then, like you say, the 2023, as we come back down to 53% as the Liz Truss budget and things as well. And in 2024, it really softened back to 42%. But as of last month, February 2025, we're sitting at 56% in the Dundee city area, and still very much in a hot sellers market. So so still good news for sellers in the Dundee city area.
I think it's great actually, because it has balanced itself out now. So when you look at that 56%, that's really 1 in 2 properties that are selling on average. So that's a good position to be in for sellers and for buyers. For the buyers, it's giving you still that opportunity. And we've not even gone into spring. You know, we talk about, for us, there's no seasonality because of the way that we market our properties, Richard, but there is still a mentality with some sellers and with some buyers who feel we'll put on in spring and we'll be moving in the summer. So this isn't really taking into account the fact that you're potentially going to have additional stock anyway comes on in spring. So you'll see an influx of properties there, which might distort that. But it'd be interesting for us to look at, you know, how does this implicate the Dundee property market, and how is it going to kind of phase your year for 2025 if you're considering buying or selling? So it's an interesting one, isn't it? For sellers, we're now in a Dundee property market where patience and strategy are essential. I think if 1 in 2 properties are selling, your buyers don't have a great deal of choice. You as a seller are not in a position where you can compete with multiple homes. So you really do need to be making your stand out. So buyers have more choice, and that for them is great. So as we said earlier, you know, Dundee property market, we do lots of shows on this. It's a great way for you to kind of get yourself educated if you're looking for some help. But when we talk about sellers, they must focus on the pricing realistically as well. So I think what we've definitely seen is we had that real overspurge in pricing when we came into 21 and 22, kind of slowed into 23, but we've got more realistic pricing. Home reports have caught up with the values of houses as well. So I think ensuring that you've got a realistic priced property is one thing. But also you need to make sure that your home stands out. That's the second thing, isn't it? Overpricing will lead to extended time on the market, which you don't want. Certainly when I am taking viewers around properties, they'll say, how long's this one been on? And then if you say, oh, it's only been listed a week, they get excited. If you say, oh, it's been on for 2 or 3 months, they go, what's wrong with the house then?
Why is that?
What's wrong with it? Why doesn't it want it? And that's just a mentality thing. Having said that, though, I am a true believer in actually it doesn't really matter how long the house has been on the market. It's about how long the buyer has been on the market, you know, and it could just be that the person that house is meant for just hasn't seen it yet. And sometimes that just works that way, doesn't it? So that's something definitely to be looking out for. But overpricing does extend your time. So that's something to be aware of. It cuts down your chances of selling and eventually getting your sale completed in the timescale that maybe you're working to. You know, at the end of the day, you're always selling a home because of a reason. So, you know, you're maybe downsizing, you're changing jobs, you need to move, your kids are going to different schools. There's lots of things.
Your family's getting bigger, or you're downsizing, You make quite a really good point there, and obviously we know all too well that it's all about that initial consultation, getting the price right, having the right comparables and evidence to properly price a property, and then also backing it up with the proper marketing strategy. The digital marketing strategy, what kind of target audience you're going to be getting this in front of, and how you're going to do that. Like you're saying, you've got different audiences that maybe haven't seen your property yet because of the way it's marketed. And a good agent will know how to do that properly.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that certainly if you're a seller at the moment in this type of market, you should be challenging your agents to see how are they going to work for you, what are they going to do, get them to demonstrate that, not just to demonstrate how they're going to do it, but get them to demonstrate their past successes as well. So, we could all put a strategy out there that looks fantastic and wonderful, but actually, has it proven to work, and do you have the results to back that up? Because I think that's, as a seller, that's what I would want to know. So I think that's really important for you to be able to do that. And if your agent's demonstrating all of that to you, then it gives you that confidence as well that you're going at the right point as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That being said, what else should we be pointing out here, Richard?
Yeah, well, as I say, obviously, it's all very well having the price right and the marketing strategy, but a well presented and appropriately priced Dundee home will continue to attract solid interest, you know, as long as it's all set up correctly. So with mortgage rates stabilising, there is a bit of a confidence among buyers now, but they are taking their time to kind of make the decisions properly. So a proactive marketing approach, as I said, including, you know, virtual tours, that interactive digital marketing strategy, strong photography, and digital exposure and things. You see these overexposed pictures and things that block out windows, and they just don't look good in a listing. And we are very much social media driven and video, and you know, that's a big part of what we do. Pictures, photography and descriptions also really, they do have their place, and they need to be done properly. Do you know, it's, they all marry up together and create that entire marketing experience.
They do, but I think you make a really good point there as well in regards to the video tours that we do, because that is something quite unique to ourselves, isn't it? But I think for me, certainly the feedback that I get from buyers is that actually once they've seen that video, they actually feel that they've almost been in the house. Because it's a walking, talking video. It's not just a quick zoom round and you're not quite sure what room you're in. We literally are pointing out everything about that property, all the benefits that people would have if they buy that house, but also the garden. But not just that, even the location. You know, Dundee City is a fantastic city. So if you're thinking about, you know, buying something city centre, you know, can you walk to the train station? Is the V&A 5 minutes away? Can you walk along that prom and stop at the wee beachside cafe that's there and have your coffee and your ice cream, and, you know, take your dog a nice long walk along there? You know, where are the parks? Can you get to the parks? And that really just how much can you enjoy the area that you're living in? So we don't just promote the property, it's the lifestyle that you get from that as well. Because it's a massive investment for someone, isn't it? It's your biggest asset that you'll ever have, whether you're a first-time buyer or a repeat buyer. It's still a big investment for you. So you want to make sure that actually you're getting everything that you need within your lifestyle there as well. You know, where are the local shops? Is there a nice place to go and have something to eat? I'm a sporty person. Where can I go and do that? You know, it's making sure that everyone understands where all of that is as well. So it's not just about a property, it's about the lifestyle that comes with the property. And I think by doing that as well and really promoting that is a big thing. But you're right as well in regards to that video work, because again, some of the properties will be beautiful and have great gardens, but maybe you don't necessarily see that from the street front. So, you know, does your agent do aerial photography? When you get that aerial photograph, does it outline actually the plot that the person is buying? Can they really see what they're getting? So for us, it's really about ticking all of those boxes. So actually then, by the time they come to view that house, it's almost becomes an informality. They're 90% invested in it.
It's just like something that you need to do as a formality.
So, and that's then about all the senses, isn't it? It's like, does it feel nice? Do I get a warm feeling when I walk in? Does it smell good? Is it bright? Will my furniture fit? It's little things like that, rather than
you got to right use the flow in the property and the light in the property. Absolutely. And all those things.
And that makes a big difference.
You say about, obviously, and video is so important, but it's also, like you say, it's what you actually say in the video. And you could be, and it depends on where you are and what's on offer. Do you know, you could be in the East Neuk, and obviously you're going to really capitalise on the fact that you're at the seaside and all the other things that East Neuk has to provide. But if you're in Dundee, like you say, you're going to think about, right, the train station, the V&A, do you know, all these things that, so a good agent's going to think, right, I'm in this location, this is what I need to make people aware that they've got this on their doorstep, or this is in X amount of miles away, or with walking distance and things, and do their actual research to relay that clearly to you.
A lot of people want city life, but they want some of the countryside with it as well. So it's really important. Do you understand where the local parks are? How far away is it from the property you're selling? Can they walk to the train station or cycle to the train station? You know, it's just all of those little elements that really make a big difference. And what they're doing down at that seat, the front at Dundee, is just beautiful. It's fabulous. My husband and I walked along there with the dog the other day, and it was just beautiful. And the little cafe, they've got like an outside part, and you can sit with your feet in this. They've made a sand pit. You can sit your feet in the sand and have a nice hot coffee.
Oh, really?
They do puppuccinos for the pup as well. So Jock had his wee puppuccino. He was quite happy. But it's all of these things, though, because although you want city living, you still want to be able to feel that you're out with a city as well. So all that freedom that you have along that front is just fantastic. So it is great. So that's definitely something to be making sure that you're really understanding from your agent. As far as a seller goes, I think that's probably the best way to secure a sale in a reasonable time frame.
Definitely.
What does it look like for buyers, Richard?
I think, well, on the flip side for the buyers, then those in the market for a property in Dundee in 2025 will find that they have little more breathing space, I think, to compare to like the frenzied market we had in 2021, 2022, when we were looking at like, you know, we're up at 72 and 71%, extreme, like obviously buyer's market, where people, if you were a buyer, you had to, you know, you had to act fast because you had everybody hot on your tail for every property. I mean, we were just inundated with buyers and things. So yeah, while desirable properties still attract a bit of competition in the current market, there are opportunities still there to negotiate on the price and secure maybe favourable terms depending on your situation, you know. And a lot of the times it's not always about the highest offer, it's about whether maybe your situation would accommodate the seller. And you could, you know, it could work out a lot better that way. Not just the highest bidder gets the property always. It's more about the you know, the circumstances sometimes. Particularly homes that have been on the market for a little while. Do you know, you said early people might kind of shy away, like what's wrong with it? But if something's been on a little longer, then you've got that better kind of scope to negotiate with the owner. Like, look, you've been on for a wee while. I'm not ready to move quite yet, but if we could agree on something now, we could both work towards it, and then it's a win-win, basically.
Exactly.
And again, with a good agent in the middle of that negotiation and mediation between buyer and seller, you'll end up with a really good deal where everybody's happy and comes out on the other side with a great result, basically. And that's ultimately what you want as an agent.
Especially with a first-time buyer, because they have no chain behind them either, so they're in a really strong position. But also, you know, if they're buying from you and you're maybe upsizing, maybe you're new, you know, there's a lot of building going on. Maybe you're buying a new house that's not quite ready yet, or maybe you've seen your property and you need to move quick. A first-time buyer can do that. So it's all these situations that we need to understand when we're processing everything in regards to your viewers and what the availability they have as well. But for a first-time buyer, that can really secure a property of their choice, because they do have that wee added advantage that the chain stops with them, and it gives the freedom then to the seller to make their choices, doesn't it?
Yeah, again, and then a really good agent will ask these questions to buyers. Do you know, what's your position? Why are you moving? What's your time scale? Do you know, do you have all the right things in place? And that's what I was going to say. I cannot stress the importance of a buyer who really needs to have their mortgage pre-approved and in place before you start offering on properties. And you'll find if you are a seller and you've got your property in the market and you've had an offer and it falls through because the mortgage wasn't set up, then your agent should have checked that before they had a buyer submitting an offer to you for consideration, to make sure that they were qualified and in the right position to actually proceed with that offer. And that one of the most important things is having your mortgage set up if you're buying with a mortgage. I mean, it seriously strengthens your position when you're making the offer, because I mean, anyone can make an offer on a property, but are you in a position to actually follow through on it? That's the question. And also consider broadening your search slightly. People get quite fixed on an area and they could really become tunnel visioned with that. And really, if you come out that search area just a wee bit, you might find something just as good and probably a wee bit more attractively priced. Because obviously we all want these certain areas which obviously come with a price tag. So sometimes the best value could be found just outside that, just outside the more sought after areas.
I think that's a really good point, because actually it's a conversation I've had with many. We all have a criteria, we all have our tick list and our dream list of what we'd want from a house. But I've often said to a client, well, this one doesn't quite have all the things that you said, but it does have this, or it does have that. And actually, have you considered maybe not having this because you're getting something else instead? And actually they then go and see a property and go, oh, actually, I hadn't considered this. Oh, I love it. This is exactly what I'm needing. And I think sometimes it's good to have a vision, but don't close your box in too tight, because actually you're limiting yourself. But I think when we go back to the point as well about making sure your mortgage is approved in principle as well, that's really important, especially with city buyers, because city buyers, there can be fantastic apartments, etc., that are above commercial outlets. So you need to be careful with that as well in regards to who's your mortgage supplier, and are they happy to lend a property that's above a commercial outlet. So again, there's all these little things to consider as well. Also, the types of builds in cities, you've got a real mix of builds types in there as well, from the foundations up. So again, it's really important that you check all those things out as well. So just make sure that you've got a strong position with a mortgage that can be flexible on that, and then you should really have no troubles in regards to securing your property. But again, if you are a seller and you are with an agent at the moment or considering selling your property, as Richard said, definitely find out how your estate agent will work for you in regards to qualifying your buyers and understanding their positions. Because what would be not a good thing is if you find out you're at the start of your chain, the first time buyer actually isn't in a position to proceed after all, and then the whole chain collapses and you maybe lose your dream home. So it's really important to challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, because if they've not got obviously like the mortgage in principle, they've not got the funds, they've not got, and these simple questions that should have been asked, the whole thing could collapse, and it could be quite for a seller thinking, right, okay, and then they could obviously have then moved on to offering, and it just mucks up the whole chain. Just by not asking a few questions to the initial buyer of your property. So yeah, and definitely, again, that's what we always say it, and we're happy to do it. Put your agent on the spot and ask them, do you know, what questions are you going to ask the potential buyers to make sure they're qualified to buy my property with the relevant funds or mortgage in place. And I mean, it's not a hard question to ask, and it should really be always covered.
Absolutely. I think as well as your mortgage, I think there has been a bit of unknown as well. We've got a new government in place. We're not sure where interest rates are going to go. You know, the base rates are kind of hovering still around between that 4.5% to 5%. They don't seem to be shifting much by 0.25 at any point. Is when we see it. We're seeing inflation that is rising as well. That tends to impact what the Bank of England will do with interest rates. So the economic factors will take a play into this as well. So really important. Understand that as well. And again, your agent should be able to educate you on that. But there's much to consider. I think you'll find and probably agree when you're looking to buy or sell in your Dundee city this year. The property market, though, it does remain resilient. We've shown you that earlier on. 1 in 5 houses are selling at the moment. But expectations need to be adjusted for a more stable to normal environment. And I think that we'll see that come through over the next 2 or 3 months, I think, as the government settle in and we see what interest rates and inflation are going to do. But I think the strongest thing you can do is make yourself educated, understand what your position is, and understand what the market looks like, and see who's going to help you achieve what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah. One thing I'll say as well, because obviously we are talking about buyers and sellers can also be landlords, investors, and with buy-to-let portfolios. And you made a really good point there, Perrie, especially in city areas like obviously the Dundee city. If you are above or adjacent to commercial property, it will have an impact on your lending criteria. Obviously, the criteria for lending, it will also have an impact on your insurance as well, and whether it could be insured or whether your premiums for insurance will be quite high. So again, but then speaking to the right people, speaking to the right mortgage brokers within the city who know the city, and also insurance providers and things as well, to get that right and make sure, because then when it's buy to let, you need to make sure these are all factors that have an effect on your overall numbers and your return. And at the end of the day, you're trying to make a viable investment return.
Absolutely. There's cost implications to it all then, Richard, isn't there? But certainly it's a positive market. I think we've demonstrated that. So if any of this has been interest to you, or you can click on the links, the articles there, you can give it a quick read over. But if you do have any questions, if you're watching in this live or if you're watching it on the rerun, absolutely feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer your questions. And if you've got any thoughts or feedback, then again, we're welcome to hear that as well.
Always.
And that's it. That's a wrap from us. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Anything at all that we can help with, where to reach us.
Thanks, Perrie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.